Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Perfect Partner Podcast, a show for those of you who have not given up on love despite its challenges, where this is a safe space and we have those really hard conversations about topics that can really affect your relationship. We are on a personal journey. Me personally, I think this is my mission, it's my purpose in life to help people understand the benefits of emotional intelligence in building and maintaining healthy relationships. And so I pick topics that I think are relevant, um, things that I see with my clients or that I hear some of my friends talk about, so that we can all have the skills and the tools to build a healthy relationship. If this is your first time joining, welcome. I do have a few rules. If you are watching us live, I ask that everybody is respectful. I ask that you only share from your experience. So, no generalizing that all women this and all men that. Is totally fine to speak from your experience. I just ask that you don't generalize and project your experience on other people so that we can have a productive conversation. So, with that, today we are talking about social media. And I think that social media has been great in many aspects, especially in terms of relationship. It has allowed people to engage in long distance relationship, and I think it supports couples that are away from each other. For single people, I think it is a new way to meet somebody. Right, I just went to a wedding last week, and she actually saw a picture of him on, I think, Instagram, and text a mutual friend like, "Hey, who's that?" Right, and a few years later, they got married last week. So Instagram, social media definitely has its perks. Like, you also get access to experts like me and Dr. Goodman here, that you may not otherwise have. But unfortunately, there has been other effects of social media, right? Not everything is all good. And as I was preparing for this episode today, I was doing some research and I came across a study that the Pew Research Center did. And some of the findings of that research is that half of Americans in a relationship say their partner is distracted by their phone when they're trying to talk to them. It said a quarter of Americans in relationships say that their partner's social media use made them feel jealous or unsure about their relationship. 33% of social media users who are single said that seeing relationship posts made them feel worse about their dating life. There's some more statistics, and I'll get into them later. Let me introduce my guest. My guest for this evening. Let me tell you, when I tell you I have been blessed to have some amazing people in my life, I have truly been blessed to have amazing people. I was having a conversation last night about girlfriend hurt, and I was saying I've been fortunate to not experience that. Like, all of my friends are really amazing, and I don't ever question them or anything like that. And so our guest today, I am honored to be able to call her a friend. Today we are joined by Dr. Shanika Goodman. Dr. Goodman, Dr. Neek, she is a clinical psychologist, a speaker, and a financial literacy coach. And she assists others with the tools and strategies that leads them to become the best version of themselves. And I specifically asked Dr. Shanika to join us today because Dr. Neek did her research for her dissertation on the effects of social media on relationships. So we are here to have a productive conversation, kind of get into some of the stats, your research, and just some of the things that we see, we both see, right, from people, our clients, in this day and age in social media. Before we get started, I got to pour my wine. But Dr. Shanika, thanks so much for joining us. Oh, you got your glass too? I love that.
I gotta be honest, y'all. This is cranberry juice.
Not cranberry juice, but that's okay. That's all right.
Listen, I'm like, you know what? I like to drink wine, but it's not something I just like go to the store and say, "Hey, I want to have a bottle in my house." Like if someone gifts it to me, then I'll pop it open if someone comes over. But I'm not like into like going and buying it. But I like it though.
And that's all I drink.
I'm gonna go ahead and drink mine.
Water and wine. So, Dr. Neek,
Yes.
your research is about, I know you specifically focused on Facebook, but you did your research on the effects of Facebook on intimate relationships. How did you even come up with that topic? Like, why did you pick that for your research?
Okay, so I picked that topic because, obviously, like if you're in like a doctorate program, you have to do some type of thesis, dissertation, and it was hard for me to kind of depend or try to think about something I could do it on, right? And so at the time when I was thinking about a topic, social media was just like blooming at the time. This is when like Instagram was coming out, Twitter and things, or became more popular. So I remember just like hearing about that in conversation very often, like your friends talking
Mm-hmm.
about, oh, like he liked her picture, or he did this, or like I was stalking his page. So because I heard a lot of the information, that kind of gave me an idea. Because even with myself, I haven't really personally experienced like real negative effects when it comes to like social media, because I'm very private with that part of my life. But
Mm-hmm.
that was something that I heard a lot of my friends talk about. And so,
Right.
and at the time when I was looking into doing research, there was not a lot of research out there. And because
Mm-hmm.
because social media is still super new. Well, social media is not new, but social network sites is what they called it in
Yeah.
research, right? So prior to like Instagram, it was like MySpace and Facebook, but like it
Right.
wasn't a lot of research out
Black
there.
Planet.
Right. Black Planet. Oh, yes, I remember that one.
Way
And
back.
so when you're that is funny. So when you're thinking about a topic to do, whether you're writing a thesis or a dissertation, sometimes it's actually good to choose topics where there's not much research on. And so
Mm-hmm.
what my topic was one of those topics that there was not a lot of research on. So it gave me a really good space to kind of see like what I can discover based on what was already
Right.
out there. So at the time there was other studies around Facebook, but not to the certain extent that I did my research on. I focused specifically on whether or not the activity on social media or social network sites increased or had a correlation with levels of depression and relationship
Mm,
strength. And so
that's
it was
interesting.
really, really interesting because I was able to utilize a platform that was a dating site. So one of
Right.
my professors in college, her name is Dr. Roz. I mean Dr. Ackerman Black, but Dr. Roz. And so she had a platform where it was called like Marriage Exposed. So I
Right.
actually got my data directly from people who were either in a relationship and or married. So like that was the population I focused on. Whereas though most of the research out there was just based on like people's opinion about what they experienced as an individual, opposed to like someone who was actually in a relationship. So
I
that's how I
love
came up with
this.
my topic.
I love it. And I think that it's a great topic. And it seems like you had the foresight because now, look, social media is everywhere. I think it said one survey I read said like 70% of, at least 70% of Americans use social media in some type of way. And I think that it's had a huge impact, right? We've seen parents talking about the impact that it's had on children. We know about comparison stuff. But I think relationships is like a huge way that it can suffer. So I'm interested to see how your research aligns or it compares to the research that I found.
Okay.
So tell me kind of what did you find overall through your research?
So overall, what I found was Facebook activity did have a
Mm,
cause or effect on or a disruption in the relationship, right? So not necessarily the amount of time that one spent, because I actually looked at it as well. Like, so if you
okay.
spent more time on social media, did that affect, your relationship or depressive symptoms or cause those things? But I necessarily found that it did not matter in terms of how much time you spent, but the
Okay.
activity itself. So some of the activity that I looked at was things like liking someone's pictures, sending someone a direct message, like, and then even when it came to like liking pictures, like sometimes like they would say like, okay, I don't mind it, but when it's like too often or too consistent, it comes off as very flirtatious. I
Mm-hmm.
also discovered that sometimes being secure in your relationship also plays a major role in how that part of social media affects your relationship as well. Because people who had more insecurities that they actually reported were more likely to feel that jealousy, they were more likely to feel that disruption, or they're more likely to feel like depressed, right? So it also comes with a level of confidence too, like being confident in your relationship. Because sometimes, like, if you're not confident, the very, very small things can be a big thing to someone who's not. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I found that as well. So it was just interesting that the time didn't matter, but the activity itself mattered,
Mm-hmm.
and how often it was happening.
Right. And that makes sense. And I think these things were around even before social media, but I think social media kind of it exacerbates, these feelings. And I think the feelings are natural, right? We all want to be connected to somebody. We all want to be secured and, in our relationship. And I think, like you said, those activities can absolutely, affect those things. So I was reading your dissertation earlier. And so you kind of broke it down into 3 different ways that social media can affect your relationship. So we're going to talk about those 3 things. So you talked about acknowledging, monitoring, and then sharing information. So let's talk about acknowledgement. The survey that I read earlier, it said younger adults are especially likely to see social media as an important way to show how much you care about your partner. So these younger people, they said, if you don't post me, it ain't real, is what they said. And so even just acknowledging the relationship, for those of you that are tuning in live, I know some people over here said they met their husband on Instagram. Like, I love it. So I guess at what point or how important is it for your person to post you for you to feel secure in your relationship?
So are you asking me that from a personal perspective, or are you asking me that from a research perspective?
Both.
Oh, okay. So personally, I don't think that the acknowledgement of the person is important. I think that the acknowledgement of the relationship is important, right? So, for example, I'll say for myself, I have always been one to be very, very private about my relationship. Like, I've never post anybody I dated on social media. Like, if I did, I didn't
Okay.
post a face, no face, no
Okay.
trace, right? So it wasn't me. But I remember
Mhm.
one guy that I did date in my past, he felt like that was a big thing for him. So in one
Mm.
situation, this was super, super interesting. We were all out one night, me, him, my sister, one of my sisters, one of my cousins, and I was just having a good old time. My sister tags the both of us on Facebook and post a picture of it. And I was just like, like I called her up, like, take that down. Like, she's like, what's the big deal? So I'm like, you know me, I don't do that. Like, that's just something I like to keep sacred. So for me, I don't necessarily feel like I don't need that type of validation, but I need for people to know that you are in a relationship. So like being private, but not being a secret, right?
So
Because
go
go
ahead. I'm
ahead.
sorry.
I
Go
know
ahead.
where you go.
So how do you let people know that you're in a relationship without posting your partner?
Right. So for me, because I've been in a situation like this, like I would post me out somewhere, but I just won't post a face. So like that I'm with somebody, I'm on vacation. Like I obviously ain't taking pictures of myself by myself. So I'm like,
Right.
you kind of get the idea. And I'll do like little pictures where like we holding hands, or you'll see a little shadow on the beach, but you can't see a face. So that's
Mm.
how I acknowledge that I'm in a relationship. I don't necessarily have to acknowledge who I'm in a relationship with, because that is the
Mm.
part that I like to keep private. So for me, it's a secret when you're completely hiding that you're in a relationship. When you
Okay.
are, it's private when you're acknowledging it, but just not the particular person. So that's how I see it.
Okay.
So for me, I don't need that, because and for me, I understand that that's how I move as well. But I
Right.
understand that that part has also caused issues in relationships in the past, because those people didn't necessarily have the same perspective. Like, I dated a guy where he's like, "No, why are you hiding the fact that you're in a relationship with me?" I'm like, "No, people know I'm dating you or someone. They just don't know it's you." So
Mm-hmm.
back to the point I was making. So my sister tagged us on the picture and all of us out. I'm like, girl, take that down. Had to call her up. And then he's looking at her like, well, what's the big deal? I'm like,
Right.
you know me, bro. Don't act new, because this is not what I do. So that actually caused like us to get into an argument, because now I went from like, okay, well, we're in a relationship. Why are you hiding the fact that I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
no, I don't want people to know who I'm in a relationship with. That is a
Mm-hmm.
different thing. I'm not hiding you. Like, everyone knew at this time we were living together. Like, we were living
Right.
together. So people know that I'm in a relationship, but it's like, I don't necessarily have to post you. So that's
Dang,
my take.
y'all
But
living together and you still not posting?
no, until I get a ring, and even if I get a ring, you listen. The day I put a man on my social media platform, it's probably gonna be on my wedding day. Like, seriously, like, it's like,
Dang.
that's just how I move. Like, it's like, for me, like, I'm not giving someone that type of publicity with no ring. Like, I'm just not doing it. Even if I did have a ring, I still don't feel like that's just confirmation to do it. It just makes it more official, because you never know what might happen. I see women posting men all the like. I mean, girl, like I'm talking like, all right, one month is this man, 2 months. I see it, and I ain't judging nobody.
Right.
But I'm like, that can't be me.
Right.
And this is another factor, right? So what about those people who are dating but not necessarily in an exclusive relationship? You can't do that. You gonna
Oh,
piss
no, no,
somebody
no. If
off.
we just dating, if it's not exclusive, that's definitely not. Right?
Yeah.
Because
So
that's
like,
when everybody comes running like, oh, I'm dating him too, or I'm dating her too.
right. So I think that, and to be completely honest, that is another reason why, like, especially in my earlier years of dating, that I never did it too, because I'm like, if I'm not exclusive with somebody, I'm not posting you either. Like, I don't want people, I'm not gonna miss out on this thing when I could, like, nah, we're not doing that. Like, until we
Right.
are literally exclusive, like, no, you're definitely not getting that. So again, that's just how I like to move. But it has caused problems though.
Right. I was gonna
Um,
say because I can absolutely understand why somebody would see that as a red flag. You post any and everything else, but you're not posting me. Now, I
I
don't personally
posted
feel like
that
this,
though.
but I'm just saying I can see that being, somebody considering that a red flag, and it's like, are you ashamed of me? Like, why won't you post me? Like, and I think for me personally, I'm not into posting either.
You
Um,
are not. I've known you for a very long time. You are not. And I'm just
yeah,
realizing that when you said it.
yeah, I'm not into posting either. I think also for me, that doesn't add anything, right? I don't live my life on social media.
Right.
Um, and so I would have to like why do I have to post you? Like why like what is the idea behind it? Because I feel like there are other ways that I should be able to reassure you and affirm
Yes.
you in this relationship that doesn't require social media. Like now, I'm not going to go out of my way. Like you said, if we're out, if we're taking a picture, cool.
Right.
But I'm not going to go out of my way to avoid posting you. Like I'm not going to like I had somebody hit me with a status like, oh, thank you to a very special person for X, Y, and Z. So you posted everything. Now that part I did have a problem with. You were sharing everything that I did with you, but just said a special person. And this was an exclusive situation. Like now that part I
Right.
did have a problem with.
Mhm.
But just in terms of acknowledging a relationship, I don't, me personally, again, I don't think it's necessary also because if it don't work, I need to be able to deny that it was ever a thing. Right. But that's just me personally.
That part too.
Um, right? I need to know. Right? You're not going to go through
I
my
agree.
page and say, "Oh, it was this person, that person." So I don't think that there is anything wrong with wanting your partner to post you. Um, I
Mhm.
think it's all about the intent behind it. Right? Just being, on a more serious note, I think it's all about the intent behind it. Like, what does that mean for you? And if social media is how you are validated, right? Maybe you might need to reconsider some things. Um, because why is it so much about social media when in real life you need to also feel secure? So does that mean it's only on the phone that you feel, safe and secure in this relationship? And so I think you got to have those conversations. And I think people are in such a rush to post like, oh, we gotta, but it's like you got to take the time to actually, I think vetting needs to be done a lot better than what it is, right? This is how you get the people that is one guy this week, one girl next week, like, right? And again, it's nothing wrong if that's, if you're enjoying and you're experiencing people, cool. But I think at some point you have to be able to reevaluate your process, right? Don't just be posting to post. Make sure that it's just genuinely just a part of your life and this is how you live your lifestyle.
I agree. And the thing about it
Yeah.
is too, like when we think about like, like you said, like what does posting do? For me, to me, it doesn't really mean anything to
Hmm.
be posted or not to be posted because I see there's a lot of guys who I see post their wives, their girlfriends, and guess what? Be right in my DM.
Right.
So it's like, what does it really mean? You know what I mean? I'm just like, wow, like you just posted your wife. You just posted, like I see these things. So to me, it doesn't mean much because what does it mean for real?
Hmm.
Like are you looking, like you said, are you seeking validation from the external world, the outside world, outside of our relationship? Because that's not important to me. It's
Hmm.
important for me to feel secure in the relationship itself, not for anybody
Hmm.
else to feel that for me or not for me.
Yeah.
So I think it's also a part of like the perspectives too, like because again, people going and I understand why somebody would want to feel like they should be posted. I get that for sure. But then when I think about like me, I have to do what's best for me, and I can't always conform. I can't always like. It's certain things I'm willing to negotiate, and some things I'm willing to not negotiate.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know.
And I think that's important. Like you said, needing to feel validated, everybody has those feelings. It's just about the way that you do it.
Right.
And so if posting you like, or I know I was having a similar conversation, and she was saying that, oh, I'm not posting him until he posts me. And I think with that mentality, it's right. I don't want to play myself.
Mhm.
Again, totally get it. But I think with that, you are then basing your love or your care for that person based on what they do for you, and that's not, it's not the way that it should be. Like if you want to post them,
Right.
right? But make sure that you have healthy intentions, right? This is the way that you live your life. You want to give them a birthday shout out, give them a birthday shout out. But if to the extent you're posting just to show another woman that, y'all are dealing with each other, like at that point now, I feel like you are moving outside of healthy reasons and outside of a healthy relationship and just inviting unhealthy and unwarranted issues in your relationship.
I agree. And I have to say this too, because I also think that my decision to not want to post my relationship and to keep it private is also a defense and protection for me and my identity as well. Because of what I've seen with married men, men in relationships, like approaching women and sliding DMs, I don't ever want to be that girl with somebody like, ooh, like, oh, her man in my DM or her man was in my girl DM. Like, so for me, I'm just like, oh, don't post me because if you don't see anything, you don't know anything. So
Right.
I've noticed that like years ago. I'm like, that's why to me it was never a big thing, like whether someone posted me or not because of that reason as well. But I noticed that my thoughts about that changed as I got older because
Mm-hmm.
back when I was in high school, that was like a thing for us. It's like, oh, you don't got me in your top 8 on
I
MySpace.
was gonna say, if you not on the top 8 on MySpace.
On MySpace. So like what? Like so for
Mm-hmm.
me, that was the thing. But as I got older, I just learned to kind of protect what is sacred to me and what is intimate to me. And for me, that works for me. Right. That
Mm-hmm.
might not work for every relationship, especially if you're talking about someone who might have like, insecurities or someone who has trauma around like cheating and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably not gonna have that same perspective. It's like, okay, I need to feel safe.
Yeah.
I need to
Uh-huh.
feel seen. So it
Mm-hmm.
also depends on like where you are.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. Like if this, like you said, comes from past experiences and you need to just feel reassured, then I think it's a conversation that should be had, right?
Mhm.
If you truly feel like posting you on social media is a way for you to feel comfortable in your relationship, I would share that with my partner.
Right.
I think that is just as important as sharing, right, what your love language is, everything that you need your partner to do. So if being reaffirmed and is important to you, I think you also need to tell them how.
Mhm.
But also, like you said, also making sure that you are taking into account their their life and how they move, right? Because if somebody were to come to me with that, like you said, that's a non-negotiable for me. I went on a first date with a guy and he tried to take a picture and I smacked my phone out his hand so fast. And he was like, well, if we don't take one now, don't expect to take one ever.
What? Not ever. He
You
stretched it.
you but my thing is you don't know who you're talking to because I'm okay with that. We don't ever
Right.
have to post a picture on social media. Like this is
Right.
the first date. Like
You're
relax, take it easy. Right? Um so I think that it can definitely show you some things. But I would also say that if you are somebody that would like your partner to post you and they don't, right? Or maybe you guys use social media in different ways. Um, don't jump to conclusions, right?
right.
Just
Yeah.
because maybe you posted him or he posted her, but the other person didn't, don't automatically assume that it's because they don't really bang with you like that or they have so many other people that they're entertaining. That could be the case, but it
Right.
also may not be, right? It also may not be because like I said, if anybody I was dealing with was ever waiting for me to post them, they gonna die holding their breath, right? And so I think it's a conversation that should be had. I think you can simply ask, hey, I noticed that you never posted me. Or
I
is
agree.
there a reason that you don't? You know what I mean? And then you can have that conversation because they may also be protecting you from something that you're not aware of,
Right.
right?
That's too. And I think
They may know that their followers or maybe their exes still follow them and looking to wreak havoc. And even if they're not dealing with that person, they may be trying to protect you from that. And so you just never know. So I would just say, if you guys use social media differently, have a conversation about it so that it's not causing unnecessary issues in your relationship.
Right. And just definitely communicate, because that's like the biggest thing, because I've noticed, like, and I have to say this, I'm gonna self disclose, because this is what I love to be able to do that, right? And so for me, what did you just say before that? I lost my train of thought.
To have a conversation, and if that's really what you need,
Oh, got it.
don't assume. Yeah.
Mhm. So the communication thing is very, very important, because I noticed, like, me 10 years ago dating, like, I would keep so much of what I felt inside, because I felt like, if I wasn't in a exclusive relationship, that I didn't have the right to certain feelings.
Hmm.
And so I had to just correct that way of thinking, because, like, you may not necessarily be in an exclusive relationship, but you can be building that. So it's
Hmm.
also still important for you to communicate, get to know each other, be authentic, because when you hold those things in, it's going to create and come out in other ways. And so, like, if
Right.
something is really bothering you to the point where it keeps coming up for you, that's a sign that you need to talk about it.
Hmm. I think
Now, if you
that's
can just
true.
think about it and just let it go, and it just doesn't, resurface itself, then that's fine. But, like, if something bothers you, I remember times where things will bother me, and I'm just sitting here like, I ain't saying nothing, because I don't want him to even think that I care. The whole time I'm,
Right.
I'm over here caring like a mug, right? And so now, as an adult, being experienced and just, dating and just have different relationships, like, to me, communication is the biggest thing. It's like, if I have a problem with something, I'm going to talk about it. Whether we exclusive or not, I'm going to talk
Right.
about it, because that's important for me to be able to express myself and to be able to not, like, harbor those feelings.
Hmm. So, Dr. Neek, if somebody needs validation, we all need validation.
Mhm.
What are some other ways somebody can validate their partner? Like, let's say somebody's dating one of us and we don't want to post them. Not because we're, not trying to claim her or anything. That's just not our style. What are some ways that somebody can either ask for validation? I mean, you don't have to necessarily ask for it, but what are some ways that you can seek that validation in other ways?
So you mean like through social media, or just other ways in
No,
general?
just in general, like outside of social media, so that they can replace that desire to be posted with maybe another way.
I think that just really just understanding, like, what makes a person feel value, and doing more of that, whatever that is, right? So for example, like, I'm really big on, acts of service. Like, how can I make your life easier? Like, what can I do for you? Like, you can value someone to that degree, or just being able to say, like, is there anything I can do for you today? Or is there anything that you need me to do for you at some point? Do you need this from me? Like, what makes you feel secure in this relationship? What can I do to make sure that you feel secure in this relationship? Because I've had to ask people I've dated that question too. Because sometimes you can sense the insecurities, even though they're not necessarily expressed verbally. And so my assessment is like, okay, well, what can I do to make you feel more secure in this relationship? Right. And just do more of that, because that's going to look different for everybody. Like, what makes you feel secure in your relationship may not necessarily be what makes me feel secure in my relationship. And so
Hmm.
everybody is individual people. So, like, the only way to kind of know that is to ask, is to communicate and express.
Yeah, and
But I
if that
also
requires,
think,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, you could. I also think it's important to some degree, right, to compromise in a relationship. So, like, even though, like, that's never been my style to post men that I date, I'm not going to say I'm never going to do it ever. Maybe for the right person, I will do it, depending on what that feels like. Like, if I feel safe and secure, and if I love you enough to say, like, okay, I want you to, if this is a big thing for you, I can reconsider how I move. It may not look like how you want it to look like, but I can take a step. So I'm
Hmm.
open to that, but it's just a conversation.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that takes a level of self awareness to know what would make you feel secure. And not everybody has that, which is totally fine. But I think if you sit and think about even your past relationships, any relationship that you have, what did somebody do to make you feel good? Right? To give you the butterflies, to make you like all warm inside. What is it? Did they have to tell you like explicitly that they miss you, or, whatever that they like about you? Or, right? Is it a physical touch thing? I think part of it is also your love language, right?
Yes.
Um, I, and I think that sometimes what happens is we speak our own love language and not our partner's love language. Right.
Yes.
And
That's a
so a
big
lot of
one.
that is huge, and a lot
That's
of
a big
things
one.
happen, right? I've had many conversations And I've had conversations with like clients and they're like, oh, I don't think he likes me because of X, Y, and Z. But then when I point out, but he's done A, B, and C, right? So he is showing you, it's just not in a way that you receive it, right? And so he's showing it in a way that he knows how, that he's comfortable with, that he's probably done it his whole life, probably the way that he wants to receive it. And so then it becomes a conversation of, I appreciate that, but this is what I need, right? And you, as a partner, you have to be open to what your partner is saying that they need. And I think that it's that self-awareness, just really thinking about what it is that you need, what's going to make you feel good. Like, why is posting you really that important? Because like you said, you can post somebody, but they can still be, doing other things on social media. So
I
totally agree. Yeah.
And I had to, and I just, as we were talking, I thought about like, even like, so I posted like even guys that I've dated and my close friends, and I would still hide the face, but that also gives me anxiety. It's like the moment I hit share, it just gives me anxiety. It's just like, because I'm so protective over what I love and what I care about, to the point where I'm just like, okay, what, like, it's just, I don't know how to explain it, but it's just like, as soon as I do it, it's like, I feel and I don't do it often, but when I do it, it's like, it just really makes me feel anxious.
Yeah.
Even put it out there, because it's in a public place still, even though it's semi-private.
I feel like I got to be sure before.
That's that perfectionist, and you have
For
that.
sure.
Yeah, because it's like, and I gotta know something is real, 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 if I'm gonna even take that step. Like that's the big one for me. Like it's not enough to just date somebody and be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna post you. Like, no, if I don't see you around and see you in my future, you're definitely not getting posted.
Oh yeah,
like, because you could be around for a good time, not a long time. But I'm just saying.
That's a fact.
I'm just saying, like,
Absolutely.
especially when you're dating. So it's like, for me, if I don't see myself with that person like long term, like, nothing is forever, obviously. But if I can't even see that, it's not happening.
Yeah.
For sure, it's
And
not
that's true. And I don't want people to think that we're saying that it's something wrong with posting. You can totally post if that's your thing, right? Again, it goes back to the reason behind it, right? If you are truly enjoying this person and y'all have moments and you are used to sharing your moments, I don't think that is anything wrong. And I don't think it's anything wrong with, sharing those moments. And even if it doesn't work out, as long as you feel good about your experience with this person, I think it's totally okay, right? Again, it just goes back to, is this really an insecurity for you? Are you projecting? And what does that really mean if they post you? Because like you just said, you can post somebody, but they can still be in somebody's DM. And so I think that takes us to the second point in terms of people use social media to monitor their partner. Now, I have heard all types of stuff. So the survey that I was looking at, it said half of social media users have used social media to check up on an ex. So my first question.
I'm guilty.
So when you which is absolutely dangerous, but my first question, so when you stop talking to somebody, like, do you think you should unfriend them, stop following them, delete all pictures? Like, what do you guys think is the protocol? Like, and this is going to be different for everybody. So just let me know what you guys think. Like, when y'all, yeah. So tell me what you think.
So, from my perspective, that's not me. Unless, because usually in my experiences, whether I was dating exclusively or just dating, like, I've never really ended like a situation where it's like, oh, screw you, I wish you, like, it's always like, all right, it didn't work out. Like, I'm never like bitter about it. So for me, I look at that person like they're my friend still. And then I know you, but so I'm just like, for me, it's like, all right, it's a done deal. I don't typically go unfollow. I don't typically delete the number. I don't do any of those things. I don't block or anything, because for me, I like to think of everything in a positive way. So like, even if like it didn't last, like there was a lesson there was a journey there was growth there. So for me, it's like, if you unless you were blatantly disrespectful about something that you did, it's like life goes on. I can call anybody, any one of my exes, anybody I dated, they're gonna pick up the phone. Like, it's no love lost. There's no bad blood. Like, I don't have that kind of energy with like anything. I don't like that kind of energy. So for me, I've never been wanting to do that. And if I did do it, I'm like, oh wait, befriend me again. This happened to me. I ain't gonna say when, but this happened to me, right? And then I just like kind of like unfollowed. I was like, and we kind of like talked about it. I was like, all right, cool. Add me back as a I can see what's
Everything.
going on.
Just
But
kidding.
like I'm usually like, because when one thing about me, when I date and I love hard. So like if I love you forever. Like it's not like, okay, now we not together no more. Like I don't, I love you forever. So I'm gonna always have your back. The proximity may not be there and
Right.
the relationship might change, but like I'm always gonna show up if I can and it's appropriate. I'm gonna
Yeah.
show up. And so for me,
Yeah.
I don't just have those like, it's ugly type. I've never really had those kind of situations. It's kind of like,
Hmm.
it just didn't work out. It is what it is. Like, go ahead. Most of the time it ended, it was basically because he was doing something he wasn't supposed to be doing,
Hmm.
for the most part. And it's just like, all right, cool, whatever. Dodge that bullet. Next. Like,
Right.
that's just my perspective when it comes to, I don't like to hold on to anything.
Yeah. I've had both. I've had situations or, engagements in just because, it didn't work out. But then I've also had some that you don't deserve to be a part of my life type of situation. And I think that this can be a dangerous situation, especially when you break up and you have been pondering, like, what's wrong with me? Or you are comparing yourself and trying to figure out, well, why doesn't this person want to be with me? I think this is when it can cause the anxiety and depression that you were talking about or that you found in your research. And so I think this is one way where social media may not be good. And so I don't personally block people either because I like to challenge myself. Like, it's a strength. Can I see you call and not pick up? Right.
Right.
For me, that's how I know, like, I'm good.
I got
I
to
saw
see
you
it.
call it.
Go.
Right. I gotta see that you call. Like, and if I can watch the phone ring and not pick up, that makes me feel good. So I don't typically personally block, but to the extent you are going to sit there and wonder about their every move, wondering who they're talking to next, so you can go and compare yourself to that person. I absolutely recommend that you block your ex, so that you just don't need that type of. I don't think you need that type of energy in your life.
Mhm. I
Now,
agree.
I think that the other way that social media is used to monitor, um, I think is in turn. So I've heard somebody say she got upset with her partner. She knew she went through all of his followers on Instagram, and every time he got a new follower, like, she would ask him about it.
Mm. That reminds me of something. I'll come back to that.
And I just feel like that's a lot. And you were talking about, past experience with cheating. How you feel is definitely how you feel. You have a right to feel how you feel. It's what you do about it, right?
Right.
And so going through somebody's friends list constantly asking about every new follower, to me, that's like going through a phone,
Mhm.
or that's like trying to
Yes.
control situations, but you cannot control anybody else, right? And I
Right.
feel like if I have to do all of that, if I have to monitor your every move, we don't need to be together.
I 100% agree. I 100% agree. Like that trust thing to me, that's a big thing. Like I'm not gonna say like I don't think I ever fully 100% trusted a guy. Like I can't say I
Wow.
100% trusted anybody.
Hmm.
But if you gotta watch them, stalk them, and all that, honey, let it go. It ain't worth it because it takes a mental toll on you. And that's one thing that's never been my style. Like, it's like, you do what you do. I'm gonna do what I do, or, I ain't finna be watching you like a kid. Like, I don't want no situation like that.
Hmm.
I
And
don't
I
want
feel
nobody
like it's,
watching me like that.
yeah, that part too. Like, and it's just
Like, what?
not. I don't think that it lends to a healthy relationship. If you are watching their every move, I think the first question to ask is, right, because the fear of cheating. I think that's a real thing. I think, but the thing that you have to ask is, did this person that you're experiencing right now give you a reason to feel like this, or are you projecting past experiences? Right? Just
Yeah.
because the last person that you dated never posted you, or they would go and like a whole bunch of pictures and they were cheating, that doesn't mean that just because this person does the same thing or in some variation of it that they're also cheating, right? So you want to make sure that you are not projecting your insecurities on somebody. It's totally okay that you have these insecurities, right? But at some point, sometimes you have to kind of address those things, right? And there's
Oh,
work that you have to do on yourself. Yes, your partner has to accept you, but sometimes there is also work that you have to do. It's not okay to say this is just the way I am. Right? You got to consistently grow, especially when your partner is not the person that created this insecurity for you. Absolutely, they can be patient. You can tell them, hey, this is what I need you to do to help me get through this or get past this. But at some point, it comes a time where you have to be honest with yourself and say, okay, this is a me issue, not something that they did.
I just had that conversation with one of my friends recently, and this particular person like has a history of that type of trauma, like being in relationships where like the cheating was like a big thing, and so now trying to put themselves back into the dating world, they find themselves self sabotaging because of those
Mm-hmm.
trauma those trauma problems, and I'm like, if you want to be able to have a healthy relationship, you have to address your trauma because
Mm-hmm.
it's going to show up and manifest itself, and you don't want to miss out on the good thing because you haven't prepared yourself for that good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were talking about that, and I'm just like, and it's hard. It's not something that's easy to do, but you got to constantly work at it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you said, it's not fair because then the next person gets to come in and be held responsible and liable for what the previous
Mm-hmm.
person did. It's just like, wow, we can't start from A. We got to go from
Right.
D. You know,
Right. Right. Right.
it's like, come on, bro. Like, listen. I mean, I ain't an angel, but I ain't no, I ain't no cheater either. Or I ain't this, but it really we have to address our own issues. And a lot of times too, when we have our personal issues within ourselves, like it's going to also affect our relationship. So sometimes you will be in situations where you might think the relationship is having problems, but your problems is causing the relationship to look like it's having problems. And you
Mm-hmm.
have to be able to decipher between the two. Like, is this a personal thing or is this an us thing?
Yeah,
You know?
that's a good one. Is it a personal issue or is it a like a us thing?
Yeah, I've
That's a
noticed
good
that
one.
recently. I was helping a couple, with their situation, and I realized that one of the couples in the relationship had a lot of stress, was suffering from depression, and I said, well, how do you think that's affecting your relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Because when people are depressed, there's irritability, there is, lack of interest, all those things are showing up. And if you're cohabitating with someone, then they're going to be the punching bag, right? So it's like you have to be able to identify, like, again, is this a us thing or is this a me thing? And if it's a me thing, the us thing ain't gonna work if I don't address the me thing,
Right.
So that's real heavy.
That's a good, and I think that also goes with like this whole idea about liking pictures, right?
Mhm.
If I've seen like, oh, why? Like I've seen people upset that he liked the picture, and my question has been, what does that mean that he likes a picture, right? Taking it off of social media, like before social media, right? It's the same thing about your person looking at somebody else. Well, just because y'all together, they eyeballs didn't stop working. Like
That
they still got eyeballs.
listen,
I think that
that's
they can
a
still
thing,
acknowledge or, you know what I mean, without it being disrespectful. Now, of course, there's definitely a line, but just
right?
because like they got eyeballs, they can see, yes, she's beautiful, she has a nice body, or just because I like a picture, it doesn't necessarily mean that I don't know whatever you came up with in your head. Right.
Mhm.
Again, the insecurities. Is it a me thing or did this person really give you a reason to feel insecure?
It is, and it's so crazy. I just got a flashback. I was dating this guy some years back, and we were on our way somewhere. We were driving in a car, and the windows was down. It was in the summertime, and so there was a guy standing on the corner, like, and we were just like kind of passing through. And the guy looks, you just kind of look up, or you just look somewhere, and like this guy act like we done locked eyes. This dude pulled the window up and locked the window for the rest of the car ride. I was
A
just like, I mean, to
child.
me, that was very, very extreme. I'm like, first of all, I would be disrespectful to be riding in a vehicle with you and just locking eyes with a stranger. It's clearly just like you just look like, how do we just see people like, and like, I'm just like, oh, damn, like, it wasn't that kind of
Right.
thing. It's just like, you just look. And then he just literally just pulled the windows up, locked the window. I was like, okay, that's a lot. Like, I just couldn't. And he's like, well, you locking eyes with him. I said, how? You're not even at a stop sign that long to lock eyes with somebody. You at a stop sign for, first of all, people don't even stop really at the stop sign. They slide
Come
through that
roll
stop sign,
through.
okay? Because I'm one of them people, all right? So I'm just like, what? How do we lock eyes? But again, this particular person was very, very insecure, very insecure. Like this is the same person who I went out one night with my cousins that came up from Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
We were going out. I ended up running into I cannot make this up. I ended up running into a guy I went to middle school with named Earl. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm like, Earl's like, oh my God, Neek, what's up, girl? I'm like, I ain't seen him in a long time. Him and Earl used to be best friends with my male best friend. So we knew each other just growing up. And I ran into him one time we were out. And I came back home and like my phone was, he was going through my phone. And he noticed there was an extra contact in my phone. It's like, first of all, back in the day, I don't think they even told you how many contacts you had in your phone. Like you had to count my contacts to know that there was an extra contact in my phone. Yes. Yes. So I'm like, that is extreme. So again, when we talk about compromising, but there's also boundaries. Like I have there's a level of privacy that I have to have. Like
Mm-hmm.
I know there's some couples I know where they got their each other's Facebook logins, and I'm like, to me,
That's a lot.
that's a bit too much. Like
Mm-hmm.
you got the password to my phone. We're not doing that. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like it's a level of like respect, privacy, like because just think about like if I'm dating someone who has to have the password to my phone, there are gonna be people that's gonna text me that has nothing to do with the conversation that me and you have, that should be kept private. Like if
Mm-hmm.
I'm having a conversation with one of my friends and they're telling me about something, or if even if it wasn't something sensitive, it's just that's between us. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel like when you do something like that, you're that's a boundary issue.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's to me that's a bit too much.
Yeah.
And I
And
see it.
yeah, it's definitely there. And I think again, I think that these feelings are valid, right? Because, and you
Yeah.
talk about this in your dissertation in terms of this comparison theory, right? We deal with this in a lot of ways in social media, like, right, we social media is a snapshot of people, like people post the best moments of their life and we compare ourselves, right? And if I'm being honest, right, I do it sometimes with, or I have done it, probably still do, in terms of my business, right? Because I
Right.
blew my life up to start this business and I'm like, dang, this is where I am. Like even me and you, right, we quit the
Right.
same time, our business have not grown at the same rate, right?
Mhm.
And so this comparison theory is definitely real.
Yeah,
So kind of talk about that comparison theory and how that plays into all of this.
that's a very, very good question, and I honestly think that it has a lot to do with your confidence in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because at one point in my life, I would be that was me too. It's like, oh well, I would go on. This was probably 8 to 10 years ago. I would go on social media and I would see certain things that made me feel like I wasn't doing enough. Even though everyone's like, "Oh, you doing a lot, girl. You in the document program. You in it," and you just be like, but it's again, it becomes something else when you have it to something to compare to. And so I realized that for me, and I've done the work. I've done the internal work to be able to become very, very confident in myself so that now when I see those things, it gives me a level of inspiration. And it doesn't make me feel like I'm doing something less than. And so I think that for me, it's a confidence thing. It's a self-esteem thing. It's a like, I accept myself wholeheartedly thing, but you have to do the work in order to be able to get to a place where you can see something like that and not feel like I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
I remember one time I had a friend, she would get super, super depressed after she would go on social media. And I noticed that. And I think it's something that she noticed, but she never really kind of expressed. And when I brought it to her attention, like it almost made her cry because like she's like, I am like this. I'm like, well, if you can identify that this is how social media is making you feel, maybe you should take a break from it.
Yeah.
But there's an attachment to social media. It's like, okay, well, if I go MIA, I'm gonna miss out on these things and knowing what the latest updates is and all those things. So like people are literally like it's like an addiction,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I have to say, for me, I would probably have to be honest and say like I wouldn't necessarily say I'm addicted to social media. But see, I think that it's different for me because most of my business is through social media. So it's hard for me to stay off of it because I'm like people are constantly DMing about services and whatever the case may be. So that also affects like how often I'm on it. But I'm not one to really go on Instagram and scroll. Like yes, I'll scroll, but I'm more so on there if I'm going live or if I'm doing something because I'm usually doing other things, throughout my day. Where so I'm not allowing myself to spend so much time on social media just scrolling. So I just really just think that it does play a factor, but it depends on where you are and your level of confidence and self esteem. Because those people who have that strong level of like, I'm okay with where I am and I'm where I'm supposed to be is going to look at it differently than someone who feels that they're not where they're supposed to be. So my thing is, it's all about perspective too and mindset,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because in my mind, I know that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I've trained myself to think like that about everything in my life. Whether I felt like I should be a mom by now and I'm not, or I should have been a wife by now and I'm not. I'm able to accept everything about where I currently am because I understand that everything is divine. But that's just the way that I look at life.
Right. So how did you get to that point, right? Because the stat that I read earlier, right? 33% of social media users who are single said seeing relationship posts made them feel worse about their dating life. So if I'm single, right, and I keep seeing, right, is wintertime is coming, here come the cute PJ pictures and all of that. I want to be married. Like, I want cute PJ pictures. I don't know that I need the kids in it, but right, I want pictures. I want, you know what I mean?
Give me a
So
niece.
how
At least one.
how do we like how does somebody get to a place where they don't have to compare, or they're not envious of seeing these relationship posts? Like, how do you have any recommendations in terms of really being confident and being okay and comfortable where you are?
I do. And it goes back to just your mindset because if you change the way that you look at things, the things that you look at will change. I heard that quote years ago, and it stuck with me like forever. It's one of my favorite quotes. So if you can look at a situation and say like, say you see pictures and it's like, oh, they're cute Christmas pictures and family, this and the third. You can look at it and say, oh my God, I want that so bad. You can be like, oh, I can't wait to post mine. I'm gonna look like that's a good idea. So my perspective is different. So to me, I look at things to inspire me, not to make me feel less than. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that in order for you to get to a place where you view it that way, it's all about just building yourself up as an individual. Because a lot of those people who look at it like that are wanting it for the image itself and not
Mm-hmm.
for what it is. And so
Right.
for me, it's like the image is not the most important thing. The most important thing is how it is in it, not the
Mm-hmm.
actual image itself. Like, because there's a lot of people who are on social media and you would think they had the best relationship ever. Because again, you're getting those snapshots. And most people are not obviously posting the bad or not so good stuff. But it's like even for the people who post the good stuff and it's just very, very exaggerated, like that's also a thing too. So for me, it's just like I can see through those. I don't know if it's the psychologist in me, but like I honestly believe I can truly say like I can sense like when something is really genuine versus not when it comes to people posting their relationships. Like sometimes you be like, yeah, that don't yeah, no. At home it ain't even what it is. Like it and again, like there's so many times, and this is another thing too. There's so many times where we find ourselves glorifying what we see. And I
Mm-hmm.
always tell people be careful about glorifying what you see because everything is not what you think it is. And so you up there asking God, oh, I want a relationship like Jay-Z and Beyonce, but you have no idea what their relationship looks like. Or you want a relationship like Sierra and Russell, but you don't know what their relationship actually looks like. You can only base it off of what they show you. But what they show you can be real, it can be not real, it can be a fantasy, it can be a desire. You never know. So for me, it's like no one else is my relationship goals. My relationship goals are my relationship goals. And I used to find myself years ago saying, "Oh, relationship goals."
Mm-hmm.
That would never come out of my mouth because I understand that we only see what they allow us to see.
Yep.
So if you're asking God to give you a Russell, you have no idea who Russell even is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looks good on the outside, but
Right.
you don't know what's going on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And I think that's a good point. Especially when I got into this space, right? I think I was surprised at how many people didn't even know their relationship isn't healthy. That
Mm,
definitely surprised me.
yes.
Right. And I think it's still, I think another negative of social media is, right, we keeping up with the Joneses. I'm
Right.
gonna keep my image together, but I've worked with people and they're, like you said, their house is in shambles. They
Falling
don't even
apart.
like each other. Right. And I think for me, on a personal level, what made me comfortable with it, it took me some time to be okay with being single and all of that. But after my last situation ended, my last like kind of serious situation ended, like that one, like I feel like my life had fell apart. Like that was my last chance to get married before 30.
Mhm.
It was just a lot.
Right.
And it dawned on me, and I'm like, there was so many things that I learned from that relationship and like it falling apart. And I think the one thing that I realized is that I don't need somebody to complete me. I'm whole already by myself, right? God completes me. My partner needs
Yes,
to compliment.
I
And I
100%
think
agree.
once I was able to realize that
Mhm.
I have everything I need to be great, because there were goals that I was putting off until I had my partner,
Yeah,
financial goals,
I
all this,
was there one
all this
time.
type of stuff. You know what I mean? Like I had these goals that I had somewhere created, or came up with the idea that I had to do these things with my husband. And so when that relationship fell apart, I was like, "Dag, so that means I'm going to put all this on hold." And I had to think about it, like,
Right,
so you don't even know when your husband is coming, or when the next, when your husband is coming. So you want to delay your life, you delay your gratitude for something that you don't even know when it's going to happen, or if it's going to happen, right? If we're being honest. And I
right.
think that definitely changed everything for me. And I then adopted the mindset that, right, God completes me, my partner compliments me. And so the
I love
better
that.
that I am, the better my partner has to be. Right. And
I love
so
that.
from that moment forward, right, I've always tried to just be the best version of myself. Right. The
Mhm.
doper I am, the doper he has to be.
Yep. And
And I
Dopamine
think,
for him.
okay, right. And so once you really love yourself, and that you really feel like you're dope, right, or whatever adjective you want to use, once you know that you that girl,
Mhm.
the people that you would not attract, the people that you pick are worth
Right,
it, right? Because you attract a lot of people. It's about who you select,
right,
right?
right.
You get rid of a lot of the issues, right?
Mhm.
Once you know, like, oh, you got what going on? Oh, my life is peaceful over here. Like I don't do that. Like my life is real peaceful. I don't do any of the stress, the drama, any of that.
Right,
Right. And so, and I appreciate, like, the last guy that I was talking to, life started lifing for him. And, we just kind of separated. I didn't sweat it. And one thing that he said was, right, he said something similar, like, your life is so peaceful. Like, I don't even want to bring this to you. And I appreciated him for that. Because I
right.
think that there are some guys that would have, that would have tried to incorporate. And so I definitely appreciate for that. And so once I started changing my mindset, and to think and to know that, right, the doper I am, the doper my partner has to be. So that means keep going on the things that you were working on. Keep
Mhm.
going for these goals. You don't have to wait for anybody, right? The
Right.
right person will come along, and y'all will have complementary lifestyles, right? And that, now, it does make my phone dry, right? Because it cancels a lot of people out, but I'm
Right.
okay with that, right? Because then I know that I'm not going to be one of these people posting a picture, but at home our life is in turmoil, right? And it's definitely not easy. It's not, right? It definitely gets lonely,
Mhm.
but I think knowing that I go to sleep at night and I don't have any stress in terms of relationships. I got other
Right,
kinds of stress, but not
right.
relationship stress, right? I don't do that, the drama, all of that, right? Like, I feel like relationships are optional. Anybody allowed to be in my life has to be a positive addition. And so I going to sleep at night knowing that I don't have somebody's son stressing me out, causing me drama, all of that, it makes me feel good. You know what I mean? Like, that kind of it makes me okay with being single. And I just continue to work on myself now. For me personally, I just have a lot of entrepreneur and business goals that have
Mhm.
not really made me open. Well, I'm open to dating, but it hasn't been a priority for me.
Yeah.
And so I just am focused on these goals that I have. And I think that if you continue to build yourself up and really work on the things that you want to work on, I think your person will come. And so I think, with the whole comparison thing, right? I do have to still remind myself, like, okay, yeah, your business hasn't grown as much, right? You blew your life up, girl. Most
Right.
people, no, a lot of people would have never done that. Like, you
Never.
blew your life up to start over, and, like, you know what
Let's
I mean?
go.
And it's not right, and it's not easy. And so I always
Don't
have
play
to
with my
give myself
friends.
grace, right? I think it's about giving yourself grace and knowing that, right, you are on the right track, that you are doing what you know that you are supposed to be doing, right? Like, your vision, your calling is your calling. Like, you can't look at what somebody else has going on, because that's not your business, right? You got to mind your own business,
Right.
the things that you know that you are supposed to be doing, even if it's just being a mom, even if it's being a mom. right? Some people, I really feel like some people, that's their ministry. I meet some people and I'm like, you are for sure meant to be a parent.
Right.
Like, hands down, right? Everybody has their strengths. And
Right.
I think so long as you live in that, whatever your purpose is, I think your person will come. And I think that comparison, again, it still may happen. But that may be when it's time to take a social media break.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I 100% agree. And again, sometimes that may not be hard, but like you got to pay attention to how things make you feel, especially when it comes to relationships, when it comes to business, when it comes to social media. Like you got to pay attention to like how you're responding and reacting to things that you experience, because that's going to tell you how you need to move or what you need to change or work
Mhm.
on.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, that's definitely true. And I think that social media can definitely elicit or exacerbate certain emotions. Like you said, like jealousy, depression, like this whole comparison thing. And I think it's totally okay. You're a human being. It's just, what do you do from there, right? Looking at, like if you look at somebody's page and now I saw that you took somebody else there. Now I don't want to go there. Don't
Right?
take me where you took her, right? Don't. Nope. You already went.
Oh, if she put 5 hearts in your picture, now I got to put 6.
Exactly. So it's like,
Put 6 now inside her.
don't play with me, because now I gotta, assert my dominance. But
Don't mind us, y'all. Ain't got their
and
stuff for them, okay?
so I think, like, at what point, because this, there is definitely an underlying, a valid concern. So let's assume that it's not a insecurity, it's not a me thing. Like, maybe it really is something that the person is doing to make you have these feelings and these emotions. Like, at what point does liking a picture become like disrespectful or too much? Like, is like in 2 pictures okay? Like, if you is it had to be the same person, or like, what if I like 10 pictures but it's different people? Like, at what point do you feel like it becomes all right now?
I think that it depends on the content of the picture that you're liking, to be
Okay.
honest. Like, if you're up here, it's a girl's up here, twerking and she got top ties out and she's shaking butt and all that, and you liking them kind of pictures, like you disrespecting me. Like, it's just like, even if you like that, you desire that, why did you have to hit the like button? Because now you're making
Because
me
I'm
feel like
a
you're
fan.
flirting.
I got eyeballs.
Eyeballs, they got to like the pic now. So that's what I'm saying. You can watch and twatch, because I'm looking too. You know what I'm saying? So, but the thing about it is, again, I think it depends on what you're liking. Like, I probably wouldn't have a problem if my partner is like liking just a picture of a girl, like she a friend, like you went to, know her or something like that. But if you liking some picture with somebody twerking and they got their tail all out, and like, that's different. Like, to me, that's the level of disrespect, because like the content is different. It's like, it's almost like I'm not gonna compare it to porn, but like that's the way I kind of like, you watch somebody naked. Like, I've seen guys who would follow like video vixens and just wore like bras and bottoms, and you just see breasts and butt. Like, that type of picture you're liking, we can't do that. We got a problem.
But I mean, my thing
As
is
you could
like,
have just now if I go liking a picture of a guy and he got his freaking briefs on, and I go liking that picture, you think he ain't gonna have a problem with that?
but so here's my thing, right? It goes back to the, what does that mean? Because what if, I feel
It's
like
the
that's just like him.
content.
I feel like that's like him going to the strip club. If he goes to the strip club, he goes because he likes it. Like, now the strip club is on social media, especially with OnlyFans and stuff. So it's
You,
like, I like it.
right, and I'm not saying you can't like it, because I like it too, right? But what I'm saying is that, why did you have to press the like button? That's
Because
the
I like it.
No, that's where the disrespect comes in. No, no, because I'm telling you, and you know what's funny? There was either, I don't know if you sent me something, but there was something I just recently found when it was like a conversation like that. I'm like, yes, I 100% agree. Like, if I see a picture of a guy like at the gym, or he just like, standing in the mirror and he got his briefs on and he just like, yeah, my body, like, like, I'm not finna like that picture. If I'm in a relationship, I can like it with my eyes. I'm not finna hit the like button. That is a disrespect to my man. My man, my man, my man. Like, I'm not doing it. I can like it with my eyes all day. I'm not hitting the like button, bro.
I don't
Like
know,
it's not happening.
Destiny. Because I feel like I mean, it's a picture.
It depends on the content.
It's
Like,
especially because these
mm-hmm.
group chats, we share all types of stuff in our group chats with our friends, half naked people, all of this. So what's the difference between sharing it between friends and liking a picture like
We
or a
talking about
post on
the
social
private
media?
and the public. We talking about the private and the public. Is what you do in private is different from what you do in public. Like that's like saying like I can send you some stuff that I might admire, but I'm not gonna post certain things on social media. Like it's just like it kind of reminds me of that. It's like certain things that I just think is super funny, but I will post it amongst my friend group, but I would never post it on social media. Just like some things are just not for social media. Like it's kind of like that's how I feel about that. It's like okay, that's a little beyond. That's above. Yeah, no. I think it depends on the content and the caption.
Not,
Because first of all, if a guy is saying something like, "Yeah, I'm like Usher, I'll take your chick" or something, I'm not liking that pic. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just to me, it's just like it's like catfishing. It's like what do you call it? Not catfishing. It's like what's the word they use when you like looking for like not validation, but not validation. Like you're looking for like people to be like commenting on your picture. There's a term. It's like when you're what is the term? Come on, y'all in the chat, help me out. It's like I can't even think of the
fishing.
word.
Somebody
Yeah,
said
like
fishing.
fishing. Yeah, like fishing. It's like you looking for somebody to be like, oh hey, like comment on your picture. Like to me, that's too much.
Now commenting, all right, I might give you that. You don't need to comment, but if you just scrolling and you just like tap 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 tap,
I
I'm
think
just
it
like,
depends. Now, if I'm not in a committed relationship, that might be one thing. We're not. That's one thing. But I'm not liking a picture. If I'm in a relationship with a guy, I'm not liking a picture of another guy in briefs. I'm not doing it. I can admire it all day. I feel like that's a sign of disrespect. That's just my opinion.
right. What
Like
y'all
I feel
think in
like
the
now,
chat?
just like a home, huh?
I'm saying what y'all think in the chat? Like is liking a picture depend? Let's say it's of somebody half naked or whatever, so a sexually suggestive picture. If they like just one, do you guys feel like it's disrespectful?
See? Kanisha said this. Somebody said, "What if it's a celebrity?" I wouldn't
Does
think.
that
I don't
change?
think that celebrity's different. No, to me, it's the same
Why?
thing.
Oh, you
I
said it's the
don't.
same thing. Okay, okay.
No, so now in my brain, like let me say this. I would probably like it if it were, but again, it depends on where I am because if I feel like one thing about me, I like to look at things and say, okay, well, how would I feel if this happened to me? Like I do that a lot, especially when I'm talking about dealing with somebody or being in a relationship. Like, okay, would I think this would be okay if I did it or if he did it? Like, so it's like for me, I always had that like, okay, how would it affect the other person? Like, what would they think about what I just did? And so for me, that it's just again certain things that I'm just going to watch, but I'm not going to react.
Right. And I
But I
think I
love me
just
some Mars Chestnut girl. But if he and I might like his that's the exception right there. Because Mars Chestnut, that's like my ultimate celebrity crush. Mars
right,
Chestnut. That's
right,
just anybody else don't really do it for me. Mars,
right.
yeah, I might hit that.
That
I might double tap
that
that.
double tap that. Yeah, so I think for me, the liking, I don't know that I would feel disrespected by it. But if it goes beyond that, right now, if you commenting,
Mhm.
right, then I think that's definitely something different. But I think I could understand like just scrolling and double tapping, like, yeah, I did like it.
But you know what's crazy? The liking thing, it must be me, honestly, because like even now, like I remember like recently, I posted something on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
and when guys comment and say things like, "Oh yeah, them lips," I'm not liking that. I can't respect that. Like it's weird. Like when they say little like flirtatious thing, it's just like too much. Now if they
Oh
say
yeah,
like, "Oh, the
yeah,
picture is nice," that's different. But they're
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
"Oh, like them lips," I'm not liking that.
yeah.
Like it's
No,
just
no,
me. You know what I mean? And sometimes I feel like, damn, they're like, oh, she done skipped over my comment. Yeah, because of what you
yeah,
said.
mm-hmm. Yeah. No,
Like, you're doing too much.
I'm definitely with you there. Like I'm
I'm not
not.
acknowledging that.
If I don't want to go there with you, and there that definitely happens, right?
Mhm,
Or even in the DMs, like people send me relevant posts, right? People
mhm,
always send me relationship stuff on social media. Everybody does it,
mhm.
right? It's what I do. Cool. But I can always tell when somebody wants a certain response and I'm not giving it to you.
Yes,
I'm not giving
right.
it to you. Or even if I say one little thing, like there's certain people that I've gotten to the point where I just have to like either like it or just don't respond, because any type of actual response, the conversation going to the left, and I'm like, how do we get here? Like,
I just blocked
so I
about
definitely
3 people.
understand that.
I just blocked about 3 people in the last week because they kept sending me stuff like, and it was weird stuff. It wasn't like, it just was like, I'm like, you doing too much. Like, this is weird to me. Like, it's just like behavior like that I can't deal with. Or I have sometimes when people send me my own picture. What does that mean, by the way?
So
If somebody
without
sends you
saying
your
anything,
own post, don't say anything. They're just like, okay, you'll post a picture or like a reel, and they'll just send it to you and don't say anything. Does that mean something? Because that
um,
happens to me often. I don't know what that means. If it means anything,
is it maybe it's a
like,
mistake? I don't know.
I don't think it is. I don't
I
think it
don't
is
know.
because it happens quite often. I'm like, and sometimes like it's the same person that's doing it, and sometimes it's somebody else. But I've seen it like, I'm like, okay, so you send me my own picture as if I didn't post it, and you don't say anything.
Right now, yeah, that is a bit weird.
You know what I mean? Because if you
Yeah,
respond to some things, it might, I don't know if it might send you the same post. I don't know, but it's like send the post and no words.
yeah, I would, and they're waiting for you to say something.
That's just like,
Um,
okay, I don't double tap, I don't do anything. I'm like, okay, well, next. Like, it's
yeah,
weird.
so somebody in the chat, and I think this is a good point, right? And I
Yes,
didn't know, somebody had to tell this to me,
what?
that right, they go on like a whole bunch of pictures and then slide in your DMs. I had no idea. And I'm like, why they go, like, why would you do that? Expect, and it was like old pictures.
But yes,
And somebody had to
girl.
tell me that it was like they were trying to get my attention. I was like, I had no idea. Like, just send me a message. All this whole picture,
You
and I
might
did.
miss that one, but you ain't gonna miss this 50.
Right, right. And I'm like, is this a thing? Like, so what am I supposed to do?
Definitely. That's
And
happened to me a couple times, and I thought it was very weird. I mean, like one time a guy was like 100 pictures. I'm like, they went back when I first got an Instagram. I'm like, what?
yes,
That now
yes,
you would never get a number like that because that's just creep vibes. If I even
that's what
thought
I'm
it is
saying.
over with, that's creep
That's what
vibes.
I'm saying. Like, but what are we supposed to do after they like a whole bunch of pictures? Like,
I don't do,
what are we supposed to do?
I don't do anything because for one, if you're liking pictures not speaking, that hey, closed mouth don't get fed. So like
Hmm.
if you was trying to pursue, that's not gonna get me to respond to you. And
So,
I
are
think that
you?
that's what they're doing. Like somebody said, they're trying to get your attention. So it's like, okay, well, just be a straight shooter then.
Wait,
Be
somebody
a
said
straight
I'm
shooter.
supposed to like theirs back. So after they go on like 50 of my pictures, I'm supposed to go on like 50 of theirs.
Oh, you know.
That's
Oh, you
wild.
like them. Okay, so now I agree with that.
Well,
If
so
it's somebody that,
you gonna
if
go
it's
back and
somebody that you like,
like.
because that's like, no, I wouldn't like it a lot. I'm just saying I would probably go back, but like, all right, it's kind of like acknowledgement. Like I see you, I see you.
Oh,
Is that
that's like a. Remember, Facebook used to have the
poke?
poke. That's
Yes.
like poking them.
You see me? I was like, I see you. That's what I meant. The poke. It's like that. Like I said, only if you like them back though. If you don't like them back, you don't do nothing. But if you do, it's just like I agree.
That's letting them know
But
they can hop
if
in your
somebody going like
DM.
100 of my pictures, I'm not even looking at you anymore. Like, cause I feel like that's creep vibes.
They really like you.
No, don't like me that much. That's scary. I dated this one guy in my past, and I said I never want somebody to love me that much because it was scary. Like seriously, like it's not. It was very like in an unhealthy way, and
Mm-mm-mm.
I'm just like no. I can't get that kind of love. I don't want that kind of love.
Mm.
That's a bit much.
So they like a whole bunch of your pictures. Are you open to somebody sliding in your DMs, right? Because I think this is one of the benefits maybe of social media, where it has become another way to meet people. Like I said, the wedding that I went to last week in DR, she saw a picture of him that, and she texted a mutual friend like, hey, who is this? And now they married. You know what I mean? So are you open to somebody sliding in your DM?
I am, and I have to be because women like us are just extremely busy. So it's like if that doesn't happen, when am I really gonna meet somebody? Like I spend most of my time in the
Mm-hmm.
house. I don't know why people think my life is lit. It's really not because I be in the house every day, all day, unless I'm like out of town or on vacation. I'm in the house. So like if I'm not in a relationship or not, how am I gonna find somebody? You know, I found this guy, well, not found this guy. This guy found me that I was dating in the past, and he found me through social media. And at first, when he slid in my DM, like I didn't pay him. Like I'm not the kind of person you slid in my DM like, oh hey, like
Automatically
that
paying.
happens a lot for people, right? So to me, it's
Right.
just like, oh whatever, just another one slid in my DM. But this person in particular was very consistent, but they weren't giving too much.
Okay.
You gotta go to church, I don't find you. Okay. But so now this was interesting because when he slid in my DM, like he would just do little things like, like a post, but again, it wasn't too much. It was kind of like
Okay.
real subtle. And then he was like, he'll be like, oh, you're beautiful. Like, and it wasn't too, I'm like, oh, thank you. It wasn't like excessive. I
Mm-hmm.
can, even though I didn't really pay it any mind, at one point I responded. And
Okay.
I think I kind of told you why I responded, but I responded. And then after that, it was like up and stuck. Like we was just like tapped in. So
That's
again, it can help. Your
interesting.
your husband might be in a DM. My best friend Brick, her husband was in a DM.
Right.
They just got married.
For sure. For
Like it's
sure.
like,
He was in a DM.
and the same thing happened for her. Like it was like a year later that she
Right.
even like,
She was dealing with somebody.
yes,
He was
yes. I'm like,
patient. I love that.
yes, yes, and they whole married now, and they really happily married. Like,
Oh,
I
that's definitely
know
done.
them personally, like in their space, like happily married. And like again, that person just might be in a DM. That person just might be in a dating site. That person just might be at church. That person just might be in the supermarket. They could be anywhere.
So I gotta be honest.
Yes.
I don't know that I'm really open to people sliding in my DM.
Are you serious?
So, right, hear me out.
So
Wait, hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me out. I think
yeah.
that I think part of it, this might be an excuse. I think part of it is like social anxiety. So when somebody messages me, it's
Mhm.
like a when I see that it's going in that direction, I'd be like,
Right. Okay.
how can I swerve this?
Right.
I think I am very much into like I like in-person interaction. I like
Mhm. You
personality.
do.
I want to have a conversation, and I don't being honest, like I'm probably not open in my DMs. Like I'm just not like
We got to
I don't know.
change that, girlfriend. And
I'm
it's
just
like,
not.
and I gotta be honest, because I have to agree with you to a certain extent because I'm not just I'm not gonna say I am open to it, but I'm not looking forward to it. You know what I mean? Like it's just kind of like, okay, if I see you, because most people come my DM, I promise you I don't pay them no mind. I'm like, oh, hi, tap. That's it. Like it gotta be somebody who grabs my attention for me to be able to even pursue that. Like and it's hard to do that.
So how
I
does
don't know
somebody grab
why.
your attention? So how? So
I
let's
mean,
come on. Let's help people out. If somebody gonna
yes,
slide in the DM, whether it's a man or woman, because women been sliding in the DMs too now.
they do. I
So
don't think I did that, but you gotta pursue me.
let's say, all right, somebody wants to slide in the DM, whatever, man, woman, whoever shooting a shot.
Mhm.
What's your recommendation for shooting a shot? And then
I
I'll
feel
give you
like
mine.
I feel like so someone sliding in my DM.
Okay. Yep.
That's what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
For me, your approach is really important.
Okay.
Like the way that you address me is going to determine if I pursue something, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
responding to you, engaging you. Like if you come like like a kid or like you don't know how to talk to me, I'm not even responding.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like, hey, yo, what's up? Like, hey, ma, like, what? Are we grown here? Like, I like, hey, how are you? Can I, what's your name? That type of. If you approach me like that, I might give you some attention or I might engage you. But if you just coming through like, yo, what's good, or just like sending my own picture with an emoji, like, yeah, no, I'm going right past that DM. But I also there's a lot of times where I just like I'll see something I just won't respond. Like it's like I can't even explain like how does someone grab my attention. I can't really put it into words. It just has something that has to be done because I'm not like when it comes to me, it's hard to grab my attention. It's hard to keep my attention.
Right.
So for me, it just has to happen. It's like a natural thing. Like it's like okay, if I feel a connection, I'll pursue it. If I don't feel a connection, I'm like whatever. Like, and I mean guys that like were very successful in the business world, like fine as hell, and I still won't do it if I don't feel it. I'm real big on like what I feel. So if I don't feel it, I'm not doing it. I don't care what you look like. I don't care how much money you got. It doesn't matter. Like, I have to have a connection, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think for me, I think the first thing that you would have to do is to disarm me. Um, I have had people, especially on my legal page, right, when I was still practicing, people would come to ask me legal questions, but
Yep.
they didn't need legal services,
They
right?
needed you.
Right. And I'm like, well, how the heck did we? I had somebody go as far as have a consultation, had me send an invoice and everything,
You just gave me a
and was
flashback.
like, let's go. And then the next message was, can we go get drinks? What? How did we get here? Like, how do we, like, I completely missed that this you needing services was a facade. Like, I didn't know. So I think I'm always on guard about stuff like that. That or just feeling like you want to have sex.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I need to feel like you are truly interested in me. I will tell men this, and I've said this before. Sexy, like, hey, sexy. I don't think that is a compliment.
Me
Right. I
either.
think that
I
is
hate.
presumptuous. I think sexy only works if you know the person already wants to have sex with you.
Right.
Otherwise, saying hey, sexy is I want to have sex with you.
Right.
That's how I
I
read
agree.
it.
I do not like it
And
at all.
it's just not like, I just don't think hey, sexy is just not, that ain't it.
Right.
That's not the one to
Call me
lead with.
queen before you call me that.
I don't like that one either. But I'll take it
I
before
said
sexy.
before you call. Yeah, exactly.
I don't like that one
Sexy
either, but
reminds me
I'll
of
take
like
it.
high school.
Yeah, like, don't
Sexy,
like
all that. That was like high school.
hey, sexy, that means you want to have sex with me. Like, I'm cool.
Yeah.
Like, granted, yes, we know that
You're
that's what
already
people want,
sexualized.
but to lead with that, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I
Yeah.
think that is one thing. Um, but I think it's about having, like you said, building a rapport, right? Don't just. I had somebody do that. Oh my goodness! So recently, I was in one of these Facebook groups, and they were looking for relationship speakers. They
Mm-hmm.
wanted to do like a live or something like that. And so I commented, this is what I do, yada, yada, yada. I would love to be on the panel.
Right.
And the message that I got in my DM, it was a voice note. I thought it was about the panel. Child. It was I think you are the person I would want to pursue. I want to get to know you, yada, yada, yada.
That is
And I just looked, and I know that it is difficult.
right.
However, gentlemen, you got to understand where the person is. Like, I don't think you should just be shooting in the dark. Like, I think you
Right.
need to take calculated shots, right? You
I,
should know whether or not this person is even open to you shooting your shot. I commented about being on a panel. I didn't even know who, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't necessarily look at who posted it,
right.
but why? That was not an invitation for you to shoot your shot. Like, I think you got to at least warm the person up, right?
Wrong
Build a
place, wrong
rapport.
time.
And I think it's important on both ends, because how do you know that you really are interested in this person, right? Because who they post and who they are may be something totally different, right?
Right.
I use, like, both of us, we use social media for business. So you don't really get to know who we are just based on what we post. And so I think if you are going to slide in a DM, I think you have to, one, make sure the person is disarmed, right?
Mhm.
Make sure that they know, to the extent is really your intent, know that you are interested in really getting to know them, right? Not just having sex. Again, if that's your intent and you know that she's cool with it, cool. But if you are really looking to get to know somebody, like, you got to build a rapport. And this is the other thing that I have told men multiple times. When you send a message, make sure your message is something that requires a response.
Mhm.
Right? I've had, guys will say like, "Oh, this is what I sent," and I'm like, "But what you sent did not require a response. She
Right.
could just like it or heart it. It doesn't, right? You want to make sure that you are saying something, whether whoever is shooting the shot, you want to make sure that you are saying something that's going to require a response. That's how you get the conversation started,
Right.
right? That's what's going to make you different, as
Right.
opposed to just saying, "Hey, sexy," eh,
Right.
right?
I
Especially me, I
agree.
hate it.
I do not
But
like that word. That's
at
just
all.
my man. Then you can call me
Right.
that.
That's different. But not randomly like you sliding in my DM like, hey sexy. I feel like you
Yeah,
just said you want to F me, like what's up? That's what I
right,
feel like.
right. That's what
So
I heard.
it ain't that's what I heard.
That's what I
Right?
heard.
That's what I heard.
For
So
real.
yeah, so I mean maybe I need to work on being more open in my DMs. Um
Should.
mm,
Especially because of like the type of lifestyle that you have. Like it's
I'm
again,
aware of your
you're busy, you're doing things, you run multiple businesses. So like a lot of times you're gonna find yourself in your office and in your home. So it's like you leave yourself very little opportunities if you're
house.
not outside, you know?
Clearly I need to go to church and let them find me. So
You
maybe
gotta
that's
take
what
a
I need.
picture. You gotta go to church.
Maybe that's what I need to do. Go to church so they can find me. I don't know. I'm
Right.
gonna be more open. My DMs are open, but you gotta be smooth. Make me laugh. Don't
Right.
come with the hey sexy. I don't want that. Make me laugh. Let's have a conversation, and
Right.
maybe I don't know. I'm gonna be open. I don't know.
And it's
Maybe
so funny because even knowing you for all these years, I would have never thought like I know obviously before this conversation, but that you had social anxiety when it comes to stuff like that. I'm just like, not Aaron, not Coach E, like, but I would have never guessed
absolutely.
it. You don't give me that, you don't give me those vibes at all.
Yeah, it yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Um, Okay, going back, we've been on here for a while, but this is the last topic. Going back to, the three ways that social media can affect relationships. So we talked about acknowledging your relationship. We talked about monitoring what your partner is doing, right? And making sure that you aren't projecting your insecurities on somebody and that, right? You have good reasons and good intentions behind your expectations with your partner and their social media account. But what about when it comes, right? You're already in a relationship and you guys are having turmoil and you are starting to share certain things on social media, right? I've seen it where it's clear that they going through something because they are
Right,
posting subliminal shots at each other,
right.
all of
Or
that,
not posting each other as much.
right?
Seen
So,
that too.
I guess, what would be your ideas around sharing things that are going on in your relationship? Good, bad, can it hurt? All of that.
So I think that for sure, like for me, I'm opposed to like I'm not sharing anything on social media that will allow someone to know that I'm going through something in my relationship.
Mm-mm,
To me, that's a boundary because like we're in a relationship, not
mm-mm,
us in a relationship with social media or the outside world. So I feel like that can only harm the relationship. I don't see like anything like good that can come from it. Like now it's different if you're coming from a place where you might have gone through that and then now you're sharing it as a way to kind of inspire people to say like, okay, well, we went through this hump, but then, and to me, even I wouldn't share that. It just, again, if you're going to share it at a later date because you're trying to help somebody, then
mm-hmm.
I might be open to that. But for me, like if I was in a relationship, you would never be able to tell where I stand with my partner because I'm never going to put anything out there that's going to either harm his image or my own. That's to me, that's a protective thing, you know? And I'm not
So
saying that it has to look like, everything is perfect because I can make like I'll say things like, "Yo, I'm ready to kill this man." Like, and you'll know, like, this is, oh yeah, you go through stuff, but like, I'm never gonna be like, oh yeah, like, I hate when people do like all this subliminal stuff. Like, I can't do that because then you look crazy too. Like,
mm-hmm.
you go post this, and then next week is like he your MCM, and you be like, girl, just leave it alone, or just don't. You know what I mean? Like, it's to me that's just a boundary that's just between us. That's our safe space. So I would never probably ever share something like that unless I'm speaking from a place like this where I can talk about a past experience and
Mm-hmm.
hopefully it will inspire someone to kind of say like, yeah, you go through things and you can get through it. But other than that, no.
Right. So then what happens what if I'm so frustrated and right, me and my partner, we're not seeing eye to eye. We're not having good communication. Maybe we have different communication styles. Maybe we haven't figured out our conflict resolution plan. Um
Right.
what happens, right? Because I think I think it's understandable for somebody to be so frustrated and just looking for somebody to validate how they feel. Because I think that's most of the time when people come to ask for advice, I don't believe that they really want advice. They want you to validate how they're feeling.
Right.
Right. And so I think I've seen where couples are arguing and right they're at odds, and one of the partners go to social media just to be validated. Like, am I wrong for feeling like this? Right. And I see it all the time, like, especially in these Facebook groups, people say this is
Facebook
what the
said,
situation, these Facebook groups. I'm like, y'all need to come to my coaching program because I'm going to teach you how to
right,
figure it out for yourself. But
right,
I see it often, right? This is the situation. This is what's going on. Am I wrong? Or what should I do? And I'm like, all these people that you're asking, first of all, they don't know you or your person.
right.
They're going to lead you astray because we don't know the full story, right? This is part of the reason why I don't believe in giving relationship advice or taking it, like, even from your friends. You don't tell your friends the whole story,
Right,
right? They know snips and pieces of it. And so to come and ask, oh, what should I do? They're going based off the limited information. You are the only one, you and your partner are the only ones that have all of the information that can make, right, the sound judgment. And so I think it's definitely about a validation. But what do I do when I'm so frustrated with my partner and we're not seeing eye to eye, and I just need somebody to tell me that I'm not wrong?
right. So I think that the first thing I would do is probably, depending on the severity of the relationship strain at that point, I would seek someone like you. Like, I need to come to someone and say, okay, we need a neutral person that's going to sit here and be able to evaluate our situation, that we can work on this. Because now you have someone who doesn't know neither party and can be 100% like, see it for what it is, right? And so that's one avenue. But I also think there's also people in our lives that we can go to for support, like other married couples or other people who have been in a relationship for long periods of time, because they will probably give you the best advice. And when you're putting your information out there on social media, most people are not going to give you the good advice. They can be like, they're just negative. It's just drama. It's like people thrive off of that type of stuff. So I'm
Oh
not
my
going to
God.
ever allow someone to create an image or a space for them to be able to tell me about my drama, my BS. You know what I mean? So for me, like, it's not. I feel like when you open it to social media, a lot of it's not coming from a good place.
And I think that
Right.
is so important, right? I am very particular about what I reshare and like all of that content. You will probably never catch me asking somebody what they think about somebody else's situation because I don't think that is helpful, right? I've had
Right.
people like, I've hired people to help with my business, like, oh, you should repost this. And I'm like, I'm not, right? Because I'm only interested in having productive conversations. Right. And
Right.
so you
Okay.
sharing your opinion about somebody else's situation is not helpful. Right.
Right.
And a lot of times what happens, right? This is why I have this rule when it comes to anything that I do. But I mentioned it, and when we started, people project their experiences on you. And so
Yes.
if you're coming to social media and saying, what does this mean? Or what should I do? Somebody that had maybe even a smidget, she might have had somebody that dogged her out and all of that because that's her experience. She's going to automatically jump to that and assume that your person is doing the same thing. And she's going to project her experiences, him or her, they're going to project their experience. And I think this is what I hate most about social media.
Mhm.
People are always at odds, especially like in the relationship space, right? It's men against women, men this, women that, right? And I hate it. That's part of the reason why I created this podcast, because I want to have productive conversations. I don't allow people to come on here and say all women this, all men this. I don't want to have those salacious conversations. I feel like there's enough podcasts out there for that, right? I really want to have the conversation and I really want to help people. And so
Right.
I think when you come to social media with your issues, one, automatically it tells me that you don't really have the tools that you need, right? Because you
Yes.
are the only person that can make those decisions. I never tell people what to do, right? Even as a
Right.
relationship coach, I don't believe in giving advice because it's your life. You have to figure it out. I don't want you to do what I say and now you're unhappy or your life
Right.
is blown up or you don't even learn the lesson that you're supposed to learn, right? And so
Right.
I think
That
coming
part.
to social media to share, when you open yourself up to other people, I think that is a very dangerous thing because people are going to project. There aren't very well, you might not know very many people that can be objective, that
Right.
can give you right. Instead of seeking advice, what you need is somebody that can help you process what you're feeling, because the only thing somebody else is going to do is they're going to step into your shoes bring in all of their experiences, even though it may not be yours, right?
Right.
This is when you get the whole, when your girlfriend said, oh, you need to leave him, right? She might mean it from a good place. She doesn't want you to get hurt, but it's based off of her experiences. And that may not be the case, right? So I think it's very, very important that you are cautious about the advice that you seek from social media. People are going to project, and that may not be your guy, right? And I've seen people, oh, he did this? What does that mean? Girl, we don't know. We not him. You need to go ask him. Like I
Right.
say that almost every day. We don't
Just
know.
comments. Because they be saying in the comments like we are go ask them. Like for real,
But no,
honestly.
but the sad part is I see people actually giving responses. Oh, he this, he did. How you know? You don't know that man?
Man, listen, sometimes I be them people in there commenting, like responding to them, like, how do you know? Like, I don't, I'm telling you, certain thing, it just like, it ignites something. Even I'm just like, I got to speak about this because, especially when it's something like on the shade room or something, I just like see, and I'm like, okay, what? Like, you don't even know if this is what happened. Like, and they be speaking from a place of like, they know what happened. I'm like, you don't even know these people. Like, what?
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. But social media do that to you.
Yeah. So I think you have to be careful about what you share on social media, the advice that you seek on social media. I mean, if you and your partner are going through something, I definitely don't think that social media is the place to have that argument,
Mhm.
especially if y'all gonna make up next week. Cause now you done got everybody upset with the other person, and now y'all done made up, and we not over it.
Right.
We not.
We need
We
answers.
still
We need
mad. We
updates.
still mad. We still mad. Like it's just not a healthy. And I think the better way is to figure out how to have those difficult conversations.
Mhm.
Um, as part of the reason why one of the books that I'm writing right now is a communication book to one teach you how to process your emotions,
Right.
but also then come up with a plan together about how to handle conflict, right? Everybody
Right.
communicates differently. Everybody has a different negative communication style. We receive things differently. Some people need time to process. Some people want to handle stuff immediately. And you may not even realize that you and your partner have different communication styles. But
Mhm.
again, that's something that you and your person needs to figure out, and coming to social media for it. It's just, I don't think that there is ever a healthy outcome, because when you're susceptible like that, people are going to tell you all types of stuff, and you can probably be even more confused than you ever was.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes when people project, I mean, a lot of times it's unintentional,
Hmm.
like, and people
Absolutely.
can give you advice that's not the best advice, or it could be detrimental. That's
Hmm.
unintentional as well, because again, they're giving you the advice from their experiences, and sometimes from a hurt place,
Hmm.
from a all ain't this place, all chicks ain't that place. So you gotta be really careful. So when it comes to me, like, there's only certain people that I would ever, talk about stuff, and when it comes to my relationship, because everybody got to talk to somebody about something. I don't mind sharing, but it's probably a handful of people.
Hmm. And
And
that's
you've
the,
always been one of those people for me, because again, you can be objective. You can be like, I need someone who's gonna be able to say, okay, like, challenge me and say, tell me I'm tripping, but also like have my good, my best interest at heart. And I know
mhm,
that, you got to be able to sense that, because sometimes people don't, and that shows too. You got to be very careful with that.
yeah. And I
All
think
your
that's
friends can't
important.
be that friend.
That part. Even if you want them to be, they
Right,
can't be, right? Like I have
right,
certain friends, like, right, I feel like we all have that friend that we can't tell them everything that goes on, because they're not going to like the person, and when we make up, they're
right,
not gonna make up either, right? We got friends that we can tell them everything, and they like, what, we like them today, yes or no, and they cool with it. But then I
right,
feel like we all got those other friends that we can't tell them when we going through something, because I know that we gonna be back together next week, but they not
yeah,
gonna like them anymore. You know what I mean? I feel like we all have those friends, and so
that's a fact.
and so you got to be careful about who you share with, and I think it's definitely important to have a safe space,
Mhm,
those friends that you know that you can go and vent, and it's going to stay there, and they,
mhm,
like you said, they have your best interest at heart, right? They want you to succeed, they want you to be happy, um and they're not going to lead you astray.
mhm. And I said, and again, like having those like people that you can like come to for certain conversations. Like I have a cousin, a male cousin, that we always talk about relationships. Like
Hmm.
we share relationship experiences, we give each other advice, and it always comes from a good place. on both sides. And so that's somebody I feel safe in saying like, hey, because again, you're a man. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like, tell me how you perceive it, because maybe it's different because you're a man, I'm a woman, so I can't see it that way. Like,
Yep.
and we can learn. And he's like, well, am I wrong? Because and we can really have those conversations
Yeah.
all the time, and it feels like it's good. It's good for me.
Yeah. Yes. I
Yeah.
think some of my favorite clients are men because we can
Yeah.
have those conversations. And I think we definitely operate differently, and just
Hmm.
being able to give a different perspective.
Hmm.
Because people, everybody's not good at communicating. And they're like,
Hmm.
well, what does this mean? And what does that? Again, I don't tell them exactly if it might be this, it might be that, but you need to go and talk to her. But in
Right.
any respect, I don't think that social media is the space to look to for relationship guidance, advice. I think what we see on social media would have you to believe that it's just about women wanting men with money, fly me out, first date, you better take me to wherever. And I don't think that, one, that doesn't even lend to a healthy relationship. But I don't even think that that's the majority of people out here. I think the majority of people truly want a healthy relationship, but that's not
Hmm.
what we see on social media. And so I would just be careful about what you share, because, like you said, people are going to project. It's just not a safe space,
Hmm.
especially if you are somebody that wants a healthy relationship. I think you got to be very careful about who you follow, who you listen to, who you ask advice from. And I think that's something that I try to be very careful about, right? I don't want to offend anybody, right? I try to be an open space. I was talking to somebody in my DMs, and he was like, but said the same thing. You give relationship advice. I don't. I help people figure out what's best for them. And he was like, but what if they're wrong? And I said, who am I to say that they're right or wrong? That's not my
Right.
place, right? Right or wrong is up to them. I just ask
Right.
the question to help them figure it out.
Right.
So I think you guys have to be careful about who you follow, who you seek advice from, and seeing if it really is important. I think the other thing about taking advice, or another reason why I don't believe in giving advice, the advice is not going to help you if you're not healthy, right?
Right.
And so what I try to do is
Yes.
help
That's deep.
people, right? What I try
That's
to do
deep.
is help people understand those barriers or their behaviors that's actually contributing to them not having the love that they desire or that they deserve. Right? I think that's another thing. Like, there are people out here, they're going to fumble this good man or this good woman that they say that they want if they don't do the work for themselves. Right? And
Hmm.
so that is the part that I am truly interested in. I want to help you realize what it is that you're doing to contribute to, right, you not having this healthy relationship that you want. And so I would say just be careful about who it is that you are listening to on social media, the things that you are sharing on social media. And I don't think that social media is the space to air your dirty laundry.
I agree.
That's just what it comes
On,
down to.
you best believe them screenshots is hitting as soon as they somebody see them, and they're gonna resurface at a later date. I'm
Okay.
telling you.
We've been talking for a while. So, Dr.
Yeah.
D, I appreciate you. Before we go, so I'm going to ask you to give the Thriving Thursday tip. I used to give a tip every Thursday about how somebody can thrive in their singleness. And I don't mean single in terms of relationship status, I mean single in terms of you being a whole individual by yourself. So, you think about why a Thriving Thursday tip. And while you're thinking about that, I just want to thank you guys for showing up and listening. Next week, I am sitting down with attorney Latera Shearer. She is a divorce and family law attorney. And we're going to talk about, parenting plans, divorce, things that you can do, or the things that may hurt you when you're going through a divorce, or, your parenting plan, or, how your behaviors can affect your parenting plan. So that recording is actually going to be on Sunday. And so I hope that you guys continue to, join us on this journey, right? I am truly committed to helping. I don't want to have a I'm not about being popular. I don't want these hot topics. I really want to talk about things that I think will help. And so I've been, fortunate to have people that are willing to come and talk to you guys about their expertise. So we're talking about social media today. Next week we're talking about, family parenting plans. So that's a real thing. Right?
Yeah.
Relationships don't end up, but the kids still need to be provided for. And not making sure that your personal feelings for your co-parent is not interfering with their relationship with their other parent. And I think that's a real thing. So next week, I'm sitting down with attorney Latera Shearer, and we're talking about, divorce, parenting plans, things that should think about when it comes to your kids, and things that you can be doing to hurt the co-parenting relationship. So before we go, Dr. Neat, give us our Thriving Thursday tip.
I would say always do and pursue what feels good to you. And that's something I've always, and that just came out of my mouth, but I say that because there's so many times where I've always made sure that I did exactly what I wanted to do. Like there's certain times when I was in a relationship and someone wanted me to move closer and do this. And I'm like, at the end of the day, it's me and my dreams and my goals. And right now in my singleness, I have to do what feels good to me at all times. And so again, be selfless sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Be selfless sometimes.
I love that. I
Yes.
love that. So, Dr. Shanika Goodman, thank you so much for joining us today and talking about the effect of social media on relationships. It doesn't have to ruin your relationship, right? Just make sure that it doesn't matter if you are feeling jealous or you're insecure, right? Dr. Neek was talking about making sure that you identify whether it's a me issue or if it's a us thing. And I think that was big. And
Yes.
knowing your intent behind social media, but social media should not be the thing to ruin your relationship. Um, and I hope that you guys continue to join us on this transformative journey. I will see you guys next week when we sit down and we talk about divorce and parenting plans and the things that you need to make sure that you are doing to make sure you aren't hurting your child or, your chances of your parenting plan or all of that. Um, if you guys missed us, this episode will be available tomorrow on all streaming devices. So anywhere you listen to podcasts, it will be up as well as YouTube. And you guys have a good night.
And this was so fun. Bye, Coach E. Bye, everybody.